my name is Debbie, Alligator Stitcher. Welcome to Flosstube number 11. Today is Wednesday, June 9th, 2021. This is a video primarily about cross stitch, but a little bit about what I'm reading and watching and life thrown in. Thank you to everyone who has taken the time to watch my videos. To all my returning subscribers and viewers, thank you so much. I especially appreciate all the comments that you leave me and encouraging me on my stitching journey. And if you are new here, welcome. I hope that you will like what you see and hit that subscribe button and come on back. In terms of life, not much going on around here, and that's the way I like it. I have time to get done whatever I need to get done, and then lots of time for stitching and reading and just generally enjoying life. So why don't we go ahead and I can show you the stitching, but before I do, I also want to mention the Under 1,000 Subs Club. For those of you who are not familiar with this, this is a hashtag that we use for Flosstubers who have fewer than 1,000 subscribers. That includes me. It's basically just a way to talk about some people that maybe you haven't come across before that we enjoy watching. So the person I want to highlight this week is Lisa from Shady Trees Stitcher, or Stitching. She is located in Australia. Like me, she really enjoys playing a lot of the different games that you can find on Facebook and elsewhere that encourages you maybe to stitch a little bit more than you would otherwise, or help provide prompts to sort of direct your stitching. She is also one of the moderators and creators of No New Starts 2021 on Facebook, and which is a really fun group. Right now it's a closed group because they closed it at the beginning of the year, but it's a lot of fun, and I really enjoy participating in that. So if you haven't had a chance to check out Lisa and Shady Trees Stitcher, I really encourage you to do so. So having said that, why don't I go ahead and actually start to show stitching. But the first thing I want to show are two FFOs. So I think that's the first time I've actually been able to show anything that's been finished on my video. So these are two pieces that I did not finish myself. I took them to a framer. And both of these were finishes from 2019, but because of the pandemic, I wasn't going out to frame shops. And so finally, after I was vaccinated, I took the time to go to the frame shop. So the first one, I think many of you know this piece. This is from Sapphire Mountain Handcrafts, Stitching Book Club. This was her first piece that she did for that. And this is the Pride and Prejudice stitch along. So it was a really fun stitch along. I had never participated in mystery stitch along before, and so I did this one, and it was just a lot of fun. And I like the fact that she chose to put the quote, "Netherfield Park is let it last," because that is what sort of starts the whole journey of the novel and how they all meet all the people that they do, good or bad. So I really like it. I particularly also like these swans that Kristen designed. They're really cute. I'll see if I can get up a little bit closer so you can see them. But overall, this was a lot of fun to stitch. I chose a red frame for this to help bring out some of the red. I'm still not 100% sold on it, but it's framed. I'm probably not going to take it out of the frame to put something else different on it. So I will enjoy hanging this on my wall. And then the second item that I got back from the framer, and this is one I'm really excited about. This is a full coverage from Mystic Stitch called Grand Teton. So here it is. I think that you can get that all in. And I chose this sort of brown frame with this sort of purple fillet going in here. Let's see if I think I can get it without glare. And I really am happy with the way this has turned out. And I really also look forward to have this hanging on my wall. It was very much a relief to, after having these things in the under the bed box for over a year, to finally have them finished, and I'll be able to enjoy them. So with that, I will show you my ongoing projects. I don't have any finishes from the past several weeks, but let me show you what I did work on. So the first one I'm going to show you is from Artecy. This is the Green Dancer, based on artwork from Edgar Degas. And this one I was able to finish. I'm more than 25% done. This is a very skinny chart. I think it's only 139 stitches across. It's long and thin, but I've now hit both sides, and so obviously the first 3 pages are done. I only have this as a hard copy chart, so I'm not doing a pattern keeper, and there is a lot of confetti stitching in it, obviously to give that impressionist look that Degas has. But I'm really enjoying it, and now we'll start working on the main dancer down here. You can see I've got a little bit there. So I will look forward to pulling this back out again. Next project I'm going to show is one I have not shown in my video before. This is from Alexandra Adelaide, Simple Little Big Love. You can see it's just 2 little birds that's sort of in the shape of a heart. I won this chart in a giveaway from Carla at Cobweb Corner, and it was a mania start for last year. And the time I started, I was still working, and just things were crazy at work. I worked on it a little bit. I put it down. This was actually the first time that I picked it up in a year. But I really like it. You can see now I've got almost one of the birds done, and then some of the lattice work going into the hearts and such. So this is a cute little pattern. I hope that it will not take me a year to pull this back out again. This fabric, I believe it's a 32 count. I don't know the color. What I do know is that when I had a piece of Lakeside linen that was a really great color, but it was just a little bit too small for what I wanted to do. And this was during the pandemic, and it was hard to get things. So I emailed the closest needlework shop to me, which is about 45 minutes away in Ocala, and she has a huge collection of bolts of fabric. So basically everything is cut to order. And so I gave her what I thought was the closest DMC number and said, do you have any fabric that you can cut to this particular size? And I asked for a 32 count. And this is a shade lighter than the one that I had from Lakeside Linen, but I think it works perfectly for this. Obviously the blue of this bird would blend in a little bit, except everywhere this blue is outlined with a much darker color. And because this is a mottled fabric, I think, and obviously with the solid stitching, the birds, I think this bird will stick out nicely. The other bird is a different color. So I'm really enjoying working on this, and I look forward to pulling it out much sooner than a year from now. The next piece that I put a little bit of stitching in was Let Freedom Ring by Leela Studio. I think many of you are familiar with this. This is Independence Hall in Philadelphia. And I went to college outside of Philadelphia, and this is a really majestic building. And so I was really drawn to this piece from the first time that I saw it shown somewhere on someone's Flosstube. So this is where I am now. Obviously, I'm still in the upper left-hand corner. I'm still doing the background, but on this one, I started putting in this flower and extending this one down. And I probably did a little bit more on just extending down the border as well. So not a huge amount of progress, but every stitch counts, and I'm enjoying this. And this is a 32 count. I don't remember off the top of my head what the linen is. The next one that I worked on, this is Jane Bannister from Hands Across the Sea. And I selected this because I'm a little bit cat crazy, and I just love these 2 cats that are, these giant cats that are in this pattern. And clearly Nicola from Hands Across the Sea knew her target audience, because the booklets, if you haven't gotten a booklet from Hands Across the Sea, they're all gorgeous, but peppered throughout the booklet on every page is a different quote about cats. Just talking about how loving they are and how wonderful they are. So she certainly knew people were selecting that chart because of the cats. And here is where I am now. And that is sideways. Here is where I am now. As you can see, I filled in a little bit more of the border. The border itself is quite thick and it's not very repetitive, which is fine. I enjoy doing that, but it just means I have to pay a little bit more attention. And I've started one of the motifs here. Clearly to not pay enough attention, because this motif, and then there's a large basket beneath it, are all one stitch. I think I have to check to either to the left or the right, it doesn't make an impact on the overall pattern. I just need to remember that I have that mistake so that I can not use these to count off of when I start to, when I pick this back up again. I used this for Letters of the Month, which is a Facebook group. I had the letter J for May, and so Jane Bannister. The next one that I worked on, I think many of you are familiar with this. This is O Joyous Day from Blackbird Design. And I managed to get quite a bit of progress on this. I had done this whole, I don't want to call it a flower, but this whole plant here with the pear. And then also some of the motifs around here, just a little bit more of the middle border here. This is the letter A. I was just trying to finish some of the thread that I had on my needle. Again, lovely, lovely stitch, and I love the color choices that Blackbird Design has made. When I first saw the threads, some of the colors seemed to be very similar, and I was sort of, how's this going to work out? But I really do love the subtle shading that you see throughout this design. So that is O Joyous Day. And I am doing this. This is a 32 count even weave morel from Fortnight Fabrics. Next one that I worked on was Little Cake Shop. This is from Heaven Earth Design, artwork by Aimee Stewart. I'll get a little bit closer. So this is by far the largest project that I have. It's about 349,000 stitches. It's going to be a long-term project, but it actually stitches much more quickly than I thought it would. So here is where I am now. I'm obviously still in the upper left-hand corner, but these are like posters on the wall. So I did a little bit more here, started working on some of the inside here, and started doing a little bit up in the ceiling here, and I probably did fill in more of the stripes. I sort of go back and forth between the stripes and this part just to keep it a little bit more interesting. The stripes obviously go very quickly because while it's not solid stitching, there are, once you have a thread going, there are a lot of stitches that you can just go to, and with Pattern Keeper it just flies. I am using this for Letters of the Month for June, and this was, this is L for Little Cake Shop. Next one that I pulled out is Mirabilia Portrait of Veronica. I've made a decision to do this, the skin 1/1. I'm using a 32 count fabric from Wichelt. I think it's called Star Sapphire. So not a lot of change from what I did last time, but I have continued to fill in this is sort of her now sort of getting to her upper chest area. Her hand is kind of like folded like this, so this does look a little bit weird until I get everything in. But I have made some good progress on this in terms of now it's started to curve back in, so I'm starting to see the finishing line on going down, and then I just need to go over and start working on her arm here, and then I'll be done with sort of she's got another arm that's dangling, but I'll do other parts of the pattern before I get to that. I've enjoyed working on this. I'm also doing semi-stain stitchers, Stitchia Pursuit. I don't know exactly how they call it, but it's based off of Trivial Pursuit, and you roll a die and you move around the board, and there's 6 different colors, and one of the colors they have is stitch on a project that has a female as the main subject, and so every time I land on that, I'm pulling this out and doing a little bit more on it, and I'm really glad I had the opportunity. I do love this pattern so much. It's just, I heard people talk about it, but when I heard that 1/1 skin, I said, okay, it's 4 times as much, but you do all this full coverage and it's fine. It's a lot more than I thought it would be, but I am enjoying it, and I look forward to pulling this back out. Next project I'm going to show is one that I have shown many, many times. This is Artecy Old World Map, and it's my oldest project. It is, I started it on Christmas Day in 2019. So here's where I am now. What really where I've focused on mostly is sort of up in this area, and you can now start to see those figures starting starting to take shape a little bit up there. So I'm enjoying that. I also, you can start to see, I don't know how much I did on this one, but you can now start to see part of the actual map and the frame of it coming in. So I'm excited about that. So that is Old World Map by Artecy. The next one is a Yearhawk Hollow by, a better picture here, by Carriage House Samplings. So I made a decision to go down, so I've just started the July box. So I've done January and April. So here's where I am on this. So not very exciting. I just basically put in part of the border and started the fireworks. And I have to say I was a bit hesitant to show this one at all, but one of the reasons why I pulled it out and wanted to show you, it's just a cautionary tale, that I did do the DMC conversion, and so it was originally stitched with MPI silks. I made a decision that I was just going to use the DMC, and the issue I have with it is that I'm not sure about the color conversion. And so these fireworks are actually, you know, you think, okay, this is meant to be American patriotic, they should be red and blue, but they're orange. Nothing against orange, I think it's a fine color. And when I look at when she describes the name of the color, she does describe it as pumpkin, so that is more orange. But then when you get down, there's a little American flag. When you get down into that, there's a different shade, but it's still more of a copper and less of a red color. And so I'm going to keep the colors as charted, simply because you know, they use the same colors throughout the pattern, and it might look a little bit weird if only one has more red while the others have more of an orange tint. And so, but that's just something I think that I, in the future, need to take a little bit more time, that whenever I am using the DMC conversion, to make sure it's the colors I actually want. And when I start a pattern, to look at it throughout and say, is there a color that I need to change throughout? Again, I'm fine with orange fireworks, orange and blue with gator colors. It totally doesn't bother me. And obviously on the 4th of July, if you watch fireworks, they're not just red and blue, but you know, you get orange and green and lots of different colors, and that's what makes fireworks displays so wonderful. But that's just something I think that to keep in mind. And so, especially when I get down to the flag, you know, I know there's a part of it that you have to trust the designer, because it's not the color individually, but it's the colors as they are placed next to other colors, and maybe that copper color will start to look a little bit more red in that part of the pattern. We shall see. The next one I worked on was Midnight Vigil from Heaven and Earth Designs, artwork by Lisa Parker. This is the mini of this, and this is where I am now. So this is the curtain. I have continued just to put more colors into the curtain, but now I'm starting to move. So this is part of the sky. I put in some 3799 last night, and the holes that you see are then going to be filled in by 310, so not so exciting. But what I got really excited about was I actually started to put in the outline of the moon. I didn't even realize until I finished it that's what I was actually working on. Because when you look at the pattern itself, it's just a bunch of symbols. It's not like a block of color, but the color, I think it might be 414, that is used to part the moon, was somewhere in the curtain here. And so when I finished what I needed to do in the curtain, I just came over here and did it here. And I was really excited when I started to see the moon come out. Because this is a mini, the pattern pulled together much more quickly. Even though I haven't done a huge amount, I am already over 3% done with this pattern according to Pattern Keeper. So I can't remember if I said this. This is one of my whip go pulls, so I will continue to make time to do this. But again, this is a very quick stitch, and it's something I can pick up and easily get a few hundred stitches in a relatively short period of time. The next one that I worked on was Patriotic Patchwork. This is from an issue of Cross Stitch Needleworks, which I believe no longer is an active magazine. So that's what it's going to look like when it's done. relatively simple and quick stitch. So from what I showed you last time, basically what I've done is I did all the back stitching on the A, and then obviously started working on the M. Again, really quick stitch. This is 14 count aida. Stitches up really quickly. I just need to make sure that I'm counting correctly so that my M doesn't have a errant stitch this way or too long on one side versus the other. But again, really fun and easy stitch. And it's since Independence Day is coming up next month, it's a lot of fun to keep pulling this one out. And part of the reason why I have this is that for the magazine monthly cross stitch challenge group on Facebook, the theme for June is summer. And so I always associate summer with Independence Day in the United States. And so that's why I pulled this one out. This is one I started in Romania last year. And so I just picked it up again to do it. And then the last project I have to show you, which I try and show almost every video. This is Cats in the Toy Box from Heaven and Earth Designs, artwork by Lesley Anne Ivory. And this is my focus piece for the year. So I think I've put in a couple thousand stitches since I last showed it. So here's where it is now. And this is obviously the koala bear that is in the toy basket. But what I'm very excited about is that when I moved the Q-snap, the first color I picked up was black, and this was a stripe here, and I took it all the way across until I got to the far edge. And so now you can see this is where the edge of the pattern is, and I'm very excited that I will be able to turn that corner, and then I can start working going down. And so this has gone relatively quickly to stitch simply because I've been doing these blocks of colors here in the wallpaper. So while the reds have, I think, 2 or 3 shades of red, and then the darker stripes tend to be a mixture of dark green and black. Again, it's still stitching, blocks of colors even more than Little Cake Shop. And so it goes very quickly. And then basically, obviously I have the koala to finish here on this page, background, and then I think somewhere around here, you have one of the cat's tails. So that will obviously be more detailed, but I'm very excited to be getting so much progress on this piece. So that is all I have for to show you in my stitching, my plans for the next couple of weeks. Obviously continue on working on my WIPGO pieces. So that was Midnight Vigil. Also Cats in the Toy Box, which I just showed. So I've already met my WIPGO goal on that, which was 1,000, or I think that was actually 2,000 stitches, and I've already gotten 2,000 stitches on it in it this month. And Midnight Vigil, which I think I said was 1,000. I also, for Letters of the Month, also happen to have Cats in the Toy Box because I'm doing K this month, and that's kittens. And then Little Cake Shop for the letter L. So I've met both of those goals already that I had in Letters of the Month. For those of you who participate in Crystal Academy, you may have noticed that they have drastically changed the format of what they're doing. Before, they would give you, for those of you who are not familiar with Crystal Academy, you get or in the past you got prompts and you had to learn spells. And so every time there was a new spell to learn, they said, okay, find a project that you need to put in 200 stitches of red, or you need to put in 200 stitches on a project that has a rabbit, or whatever that might be. And then they had, if you don't have that, then you can do penalty stitches. They have changed it, and they basically have said, we're not learning new spells, but we are mastering what we have already learned, which means that you have to, for each spell or each class, there are two different spells in each class. And so you have to, for each class, pick a focus piece. You can have the same focus piece for all of them, or split it up. I chose to have 6 different projects, and I sort of took a look and said, okay, what are the 6 projects that I really, really want to get some good progress on? So The Green Dancer by Edgar Degas, art by Artecy, artwork by Edgar Degas, Little Cake Shop, Midnight Vigil, Let Freedom Ring by Leela Studio, Portrait of Veronica by Mirabilia, and I know I'm missing one. But I sort of said, okay, these are all projects that I have no intention of finishing them this year, but I do want to see some really good progress on them. And then there was, you can also have an extra credit project, which there's no, I think for each spell, the maximum credit you can get is 750 if you add it all up. But then you can have an extra credit project for which there is no limit. So I will use Cats in the Toy Box because that I'm using for so many different challenge groups. It's my 21 and 21 for full coverage fanatics, and I actually need to go back and count up to see if I've hit that. I have a feeling I have. I also use that in Magical Stitches for we build, if you optional thing is to build cabins, and every 2,000 stitches you build another cabin, and so it's just easy for me to use it there as well. Also in semi-stained stitchers for their focus piece. That's the one I'm using. So double dipping across a lot of groups, but it really motivates me, and I haven't gotten tired of it, and so it's been a lot of fun to really pull that out and see great progress on that, because I think at the beginning of the year I probably had like 1.5 pages done, and now I don't know exactly how many pages they're done, but I'm over 20% done with the project, and so that's really exciting. In terms of, so I think that's all the stitching that I'm going to show, but I do want to show a little bit of haul that I've gotten. The first thing was yesterday I picked up the latest issue of The World of Cross Stitch, which is, for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, it is a British publication, and so it can be sometimes hard to find in the United States simply because it's not, it's not something that comes from a U.S. publishing house. So I would say once I looked through it, the pattern that I liked the most, I think it's down. No, sorry, it's here. That one, which is the blue heron, I really, really liked that. It also came with these two little cards in there, two patterns in there. Both are little hedgehogs. These little kits, they say you're supposed to use them as cards, and they basically come with everything you need to make these. So these are really cute little things that are if you get the hard copy, then it comes shrink wrapped, and then those are tucked in there. But one thing I also saw in the back of this, that the woman in blue there, that is a pattern. Company is called Heritage Crafts. But the artist of this is someone named John Clayton, and I was really intrigued because I'd not heard of that, and I really do, even though I'm not such a fashion maven, I really do enjoy sort of stitching beautiful clothing and the dresses and all of that, and so I had not heard of that before, and so I started poking around, seeing if this was a little bit more about it, and the website that's on this magazine obviously is focused on the UK. And they basically have a small box for international customers, and I click on it and it takes you to Wichelt, but then Wichelt says you basically have to get these things from certain stores in the United States. And so my local needlework shop, Brick City Cross Stitch in Ocala, is not one of those stores, but you can also go place an online order with almost all these stores, or at least call them up and get it. So I haven't decided if it's something I'm going to do. But I did go look, and the artist, he has a lot of things, but not just sort of pretty ladies. But I'm just curious if anyone has either stitched a John Clayton or seen one in person, to see sort of what your thoughts are on it. The one they use, I think most of the thread is DMC with some Krynic thrown in there. But I'm just curious because it's not something that I have seen people show in Flosstube. And I wasn't familiar with it. I'm just curious if people have stitched it or seen it, and your feedback on that. The other two small items that I have, one is my fabric of the month from Color and Cotton. This is the color Kiwi. It's coming off a little bit greener. It's a little bit more yellow than it actually is showing here. It is the exact color of an inside of Kiwi. So really cute color. I get a fat quarter, and that's 32 count even weave. And then my other fabric that came in, this is from Brandy at Bestitch Me. I'm in the sort of mixed club, so sometimes you get one that's a little bit more neutral, and sometimes you get one that's a little bit more colorful. This is, I assume this is one of the more neutral ones. This is a 32 count Lagana called Stonehenge, and that's pretty true to it, and it's just a sort of a gray color. So glad to have both of those pieces in my fabric stash. So that is it for the cross stitch. If that is all you're here for, thank you for stopping by. But for those of you who want book or TV recommendations, so one book that I finished in the past couple of weeks is called Dear Emmy Blue by Leah Lewis. This was a fun, quick read. It's, I don't want to call it a romance, but it's basically about a woman who has, since she was a teenager, been a friend with a guy, and she lives in the UK and he lives in France, but he's a French-British national, so lots of going back and forth between the two countries and on the ferry and all of that. But basically, it's their third, and they have the same birthday, and they hit their 30th birthday, and he tells her, I have something special, and she thinks, yes, we're going to move out of the friend zone, and then of course that's not what it is, and it's just sort of about their friendship relationship, and she's had some difficult things in her life, doesn't know who her father is. Her mother was not very attentive, not horrible, but not very attentive mother, and just some things that happened in her life. And it's sort of, some of it is exploring that part of it, but some of it is also moving forward with her life and sort of developing other relationships. So it was a lot of fun. And again, Dear Emmy Blue by Leah Lewis. And then what I've been watching, I've been watching the most recent season of The Handmaid's Tale. I read the novel when I was in college in the 80s, and it was very eye-opening for me. I think it was the first time that I really read sort of a novel like that. And I was a voracious reader even back then, but it was very different from a lot of the things I had read. And I really, really thought it was thought-provoking, and I've not gone back and read it again. When they did the mini-series, or when they started the television series, I said, okay, I'm going to pull up my copy of Handmaid's Tale, and I have no idea where it is. And I've gone through everything, so I can only conclude I either left it at my parents' house, because I was a college student then, and have since moved out many, many, many years ago, or, at some point I did actually have it in my possession and needed to purge books and donate it to the library. I'm not sure, but I do want to reread it again, but that's a separate story. But anyhow, most recent, and I've watched as they have come out, I've watched all the series, and so we've watched most of the most recent season. It's a very thought-provoking series. For those of you who have not seen it, it basically is in the near future where worldwide birth rates are declining because getting pregnant is more difficult, and in the United States, a far-right Christian group has taken over government, and they are basically taken some very literal things from the Bible and force women who, for whatever reason, are not considered pure, but have demonstrated that they have the capacity to get pregnant, and basically force them to be handmaids for some of the wealthier couples. And so basically they are forced to have sex with these men to get impregnated, so that, and then the couple then takes the kids, and the handmaid is sent on to another family. That's the basis about it, but it's much more complex than I'm describing. But I would say I love Margaret Atwood. Her mind goes to a dark place at times, and so I've read a lot of her novels. Oryx and Crake is a trilogy where it's also very, very dark. So not sure I want to live in Margaret Atwood's mind. I tend to have a sunnier disposition, but nonetheless, I do appreciate her writing. The TV series has moved away from The Handmaid's Tale, although she is still part of the production team. I don't know how much she's actually doing the writing. I enjoy watching it. I think sometimes, though, they linger too much on certain aspects without moving the story along. They're trying to make certain points, and okay, the point is made, but I also watch a television series to see a story. And there's a point at which stop dwelling on one issue and let's move the story along. And there's also, for a country with, place with declining birth rates, they certainly seem to kill a lot of people, as a method of control. So those are sort of side things. Elizabeth Moss, who is the star of it, is brilliant. She's a wonderful actress. So if you sort of like that sort of dystopian future, I really do encourage you to watch it. I will say at times there's quite a bit of torture scenes, so it's not necessarily very graphic, but it's more, some of it is physical torture, some of it is psychological torture, so that can be a little bit tough to watch at times. So on that, not the happiest note in the world, but nonetheless, thank you for everyone who took the time to watch me through to the end, and I look forward to seeing you again in a couple weeks. Happy stitching, everyone.